My son pushed the money across the table and called me a freeloader. I stared at the maple table I built when he was 10 and fell silent. I walked out, picked up my car keys and walked out, leaving behind the house I had bought with my life. He thought I would have to do as he said, to submit to him. But this time things were different. I had my own plans. They would regret their words and actions. Before we continue, subscribe to the channel and let us know where you're listening in the comments. The late morning kitchen in South Hill still smelled faintly of Safeway coffee rinsed down the sink. The TV in the living room murmured wildfire updates. The fridge carried an old magnet from a youth baseball team, and the corner of a Pacific Power bill was dark with grease. I stood at the head of the table, dry-knuckled hand resting on the grain I'd once sanded smooth. Aaron slid a sheet of paper right up to me. It scraped the table in a short line. Tessa stood with her arms crossed, her eyes angled at the breaker box like she was tallying every kilowatt. Here, from this month, it's 2,800. Otherwise, you move. Aaron's voice was flat and dry, like issuing a command. I looked at the sheet, pulled a slow breath to cool my chest. I've paid my share. Tessa tilted her chin, a thin smile. Your share doesn't cover it. Taxes, insurance, roof repairs, we carry it. Don't dump this at breakfast. My voice stayed low, steadying my breath. Aaron leaned in, the TV's flicker glancing across his face. You sit here all day. Who pays the utilities? I change filters, cover plenty, labor included. My throat tightened, but I refused to raise my voice. Tessa shoved the paper closer. Then sign. That's it. My heart kicked like someone knocking from the inside. I folded the bill neatly between two fingers and left it resting in the middle of the table. On the shelf behind me, the clear edge of a binder showed. In my wallet, the small card reading, Paula Title Office, pressed against worn leather. I didn't look, just felt their presence. An exit kept quiet. Not signing now, I said. You're making simple things hard. Tessa's mouth twitched. Money's never small. My eyes didn't leave the folded paper. The chair squeaked. Aaron yanked it back and sat, hands gripping the table edge like he meant to pin me there. Tessa opened a cabinet and slammed it shut. Thunk. Sign and be done. Aaron leaned close, his breath bitter with coffee and fatigue. Not signing now, I repeated, voice flat, pushing my heartbeat down. No signature. We'll find a care home. Tessa's stare didn't blink. Heat ran straight up my back, but I kept my voice low. Don't bring threats into this house. Aaron laughed, but his eyes didn't. You think this is your house? I looked straight at him, each word set down like a screw into place. I'll answer on paper. The kettle hissed softly, echoing a rainy night long ago. A flash of memory lit. Tessa younger, arms around her belly, pale face. Dad, the heater's dead. The repairman wants 600. I'd answered in my raincoat. Leave it. I'll pay tomorrow. Another memory hit. Aaron at 10, carrying a baseball onto the porch. A busted downspout behind him. Dad, I broke it. I'd pulled the ladder, smiling tired. It's fine. Help me nail it back. The porch light still burned gold, but the warmth was gone. Tessa tapped her nails on the table. You think we don't know gas and insurance costs? We can't let you live easy while we struggle. I don't live easy, I said, voice low. I shovel, change bulbs, clear snow. I send money when it's needed without saying. How much? Name it. Aaron waved. Don't count labor. I have receipts, I said, lips trembling. I fronted the roof repair. I keep the papers. Then bring them out, Tessa said. I will, on paper. My throat rasped like smoke. Aaron smacked the table lightly. Bottom line, 2,800 starting now. No circling, no delays. I slid the sheet back to the middle. I've heard you. Then sign. I'm not signing now. I laid the bill on the counter and turned to pour boiling water. My fingertips twitched once, then steadied. We're not talking like this tonight. My words were quiet, meant to land. You dodging? Aaron shoved his chair with a scrape. I've said it. Paper will answer. I stared into the chipped mug, listening to the spoon tick against porcelain. I left the room with its own sounds, adding none of mine. On the porch, I drew air. The hill breeze carried the scent of dry maple leaves. The welcome mat curled at one corner. A neighbor walked a Labrador, glancing once, then pretending to look at the trees. Aaron followed, voice lowered for outside ears. Answer by noon. Don't waste time. You'll have it in writing. I kept my eyes on the drifting clouds. Tessa leaned in the doorway, arms crossed. You're lucky to stay and still complain. Don't say that on the porch. My voice cut low. Final. Aaron clenched his jaw. What are you waiting for? Postmark? I'm waiting for clarity, I said. Paper leaves no room for lies. Tessa leaned back on the counter. You're impossible. Living together means cooperate. Respect is cooperation. My eyes traced the burn mark on the wood block, left by Aaron setting down a hot pot at 15. Ultimatums aren't. You just don't get it. Aaron shook his head. We've been supporting you all this time. Heat shot through my throat. I'm not a wallet, I said, slow so I wouldn't burst. Don't call it support, Tessa smirked. So sensitive. I'm old, not deaf, I replied, then fell silent. One more word, and I'd cross a line. The wind swept through the porch with a whiff of pine from down the block. The neighbor nodded, tugged the dog faster. Aaron dropped his voice. If you don't want your shame online, sign. One signature. I'm not afraid of online, I said. I'm afraid of losing self-respect. Sounds exhausting, Tessa sighed. Be practical. Practical is paper treating people fairer than mouse, I answered. I leaned back on the door frame to loosen my spine. You played ball once, I murmured, eyes still on the yard. You said, Dad, tomorrow don't forget. I didn't promise out loud. I showed up. Aaron paused, frowning. Don't drag old stories. I'm talking now, too. Don't force me to promise out loud. I went back inside. The TV spoke stranger stories. The kitchen still smelled of old coffee and damp wood. I went straight to my room, hand brushing the binder edge on the shelf like checking a bolt was tight. I pulled a drawer, set the binder on the desk. Its clear cover caught the window light. I laid the Paula title office card from my wallet on top. I didn't dial. I looked at Margaret's photo by the sill, her eyes kind, steady. This time, let paper speak. My voice softened, chest sinking, then leveling. From the kitchen came the buzz of a text, maybe the family group. I didn't check. I looked at Margaret's photo. I'm awake now, I told her gently. I'll let paper speak for me. I slid a blank sheet from the drawer, wrote in the corner. No yelling, only dates and signatures. My hand trembled at the last stroke, then steadied. I laid my palm on the small desk's grain, the same wood I'd used to build the kitchen table. The hand smelled of oil, of time. I closed my eyes to let the anger ebb, the words I might have shouted dissolve unsaid. I'd learned, too late, but not too late, that shouting only handed them fuel. Documents were where truth could breathe. Outside, the green city of Spokane trash bin stood upright by the drive. Wheels rattled as someone rolled theirs to the curb. The draft through the cracks stirred the edge of the card, making it tremble on the binder lid. I pressed my palm flat to keep it still. Tomorrow on paper, I whispered. Not a threat, just my schedule. I stood and cut the light. In the spill from the hall, the binder and the card overlapped like two plain pieces of a finished answer. Behind me, the kitchen lay hushed, broken only by the clock ticking its steady beat, reminding me to breathe in rhythm. I passed the fridge, brushed my hand over the faded Aaron name tag, then let go. Tomorrow, let the paper speak. Morning light came thin. The porch was still wet with dew. I folded my jacket and walked past the kitchen. Old coffee and wood oil mingled like a stubborn habit. Aaron blocked the doorway with his phone in a clamp of a hand. Tessa leaned on the counter, wearing a polite smile. Answer by noon, no stalling. I stopped close enough to hear my own heartbeat. I already told you, the paperwork will answer. How you're making a small thing difficult. Tessa snapped a nail like breaking a paperclip. Money is never a small thing. I pulled my breath down into my stomach so my voice wouldn't climb. I stepped onto the porch. A neighbor passed and nodded, the Labrador's leash rasping over the step. Aaron swallowed whatever he'd been about to say when he saw someone outside. His eyes went hard. From the back, the screen door clicked shut, like a period on a conversation that had gone far enough. On the small table in my room, the binder lay open. On the first page, I'd written in thick black letters, "No more silent transfers," bold, straight strokes. I ran a finger along the cool edge of the clear sleeve to quiet the heat in my chest. Spokane title was 10 minutes away. Fluorescent lights washed the room blue-white. The laminate counter was smooth as a fresh receipt. I set down my driver's license and Medicare card, the plastic making a clean tap. "What do you need today?" Paula's voice had no wasted rise or fall. "Deed copy and revocations for any spending authorizations in my name. Sign here." She turned the form and pointed to 3 spots. "I'll email the PDFs. Thanks. I don't want anyone moving money out of my accounts anymore." I said it and felt my throat loosen a notch. The printer hesitated, then rolled. Warm ink in the air. The receptionist stapled the receipt, one firm clip that felt like a final pin. I slid everything straight into the binder, the paper rasping the plastic in a sound that confirmed a new order. Before I left, Paula flipped through a short guide, voice even. "If any prior spending permissions were done by phone, you should send a written cancellation too. Template attached." I nodded my thanks. The cream file jacket was thin as an envelope, but it sat heavy in my hand, weighted with the feeling of cut cords. I sat in the car for a while, watching maple leaves stuck to the painted lines in the lot. Both hands on the wheel, the tendons rose, then settled as my breathing evened out. I took a photo of the receipt, filed it into a folder named Paper, 2024, and saved it with today's date. A small act, but I could feel myself no longer drifting along on other people's words. Back home, I opened an old drawer and pulled a stack of envelopes. Property tax, the roofer's invoice, the fridge warranty, the things I'd shoved aside to keep the peace. I leveled them on the table the way you level a board before you stain it, smoothing corners into line. Each had its own paper smell, tax bill a little inky, the warranty a plastic tang, the roofer's slip with a ghost of tar. I flagged them with yellow notes and typed 3 bold headings: taxes, maintenance, large items. The phone buzzed again. I kept going, called the heating service. A small country tune filled the hold line. When a voice picked up, I said exactly one sentence, the one I'd practiced. "Effective today, stop autopay, bill in my name only, not linked to the other house." The reply came quick. "Understood." I asked for an email confirmation. They sent it immediately. I printed it at Ray's on Grand, borrowing the little printer behind the counter. "It's slow," she laughed, "but paper still talks." The words landed like a familiar hand on a shoulder. No gushy comfort, just acknowledgement of the thing I was doing. Ray's was small, a chalkboard sign promising refill 99 CA. Ray topped off my paper cup without asking and nudged it forward. I spread the pages. Property tax, roof replacement, the big-ticket refrigerator bill. I clipped the 3 together with one decisive press. Team photos from the local high school lined the wall. There was Aaron at 15, smiling, hair wet with sweat, a mitt raised. My heart pulled tight, but not with the old kind of pain. I took a pen and wrote on the binder cover, $2,800 isn't respect." The tip dotted the paper. The ink dried fast. Sunlight cut a thin beam through the window onto my table. I flipped the back of the tax bill and saw my signature from last year, shakier than today. Back then I signed and kept quiet. Today I signed to end the quiet. I took a sip of coffee, winced at the bitterness, and felt the bitterness clear my head. Under the team photos hung a flyer, Community College Job Fair, Thursday. I thought briefly of Aaron. The thought moved through my chest like a cold breeze, then was gone. Out in the lot, flags snapped in the wind and puffed my jacket. I opened my contacts and went down the list I'd barely kept before. Roofing contractor, appliance service, the scheduled maintenance plan. Effective today, stop auto pay. Bill in my name only, not linked to the other house. Got it. This cycle's invoice will go out separately. One call, then two, then three. Every voice sounded like a checklist. Only my hands warmed as my pulse picked up. I pictured the kitchen phone at home buzzing to life. Payment method declined. Contact account holder. I didn't need to witness it, just the ding in my head and the feel of an old cord snapping clean. In the afternoon, I walked the perimeter of the house, the way I do at day's end. The gutter by the porch needed a scoop out. I looked at it and remembered the winter I climbed a ladder to swap a leaky section. I didn't stop to fix it now. I just wrote one line in my notebook. Downspout, note for new owner, someday. The feeling of not throwing myself at the repair, but choosing to leave a note was strange and light. I was learning to step back from the rain that used to pull me out the door. In the garage, the air was damp with old oil. On the wooden shelves, a box of screws, a DeWalt tape, a roll of 3M blue painter's tape lined up straight. I sat on the folding chair, clipped papers into the binder, and labeled the index. Taxes, maintenance, large items. I slipped Paula's card into the first clear pocket on the inside cover. Looking at it felt like looking at a frame I'd built to hold a pane. Once the glass was in, things behind it would stay straight, safe from being shoved sideways by talk. The phone rang. Aaron's name glowed cold on the screen. Did you transfer this month? No, from now on I won't be transferring. I could hear my own voice, flat as planed wood. You're overdoing this. Tessa's you cut in when she grabbed the phone. I'm just resetting things to the right responsibilities. I said it while looking straight at the fresh labels, my chest easing a notch at a time. Keep acting tough and see what happens. Aaron yanked the phone back, his voice slapping the speaker. I didn't respond. I pressed my thumb and closed the binder. The rings clicked, one small, tidy sound, like turning off a valve. I killed the garage light. A thin gold strip fell across the concrete. I carried the binder back to my room and set it on the desk. The sweat on my palms had dried. Only the smell of paper and new ink remained. I opened the cover page and wrote a line under the last one. Tomorrow, formal notice. I set the pen down. It touched the table with the faintest tap, the end of a day without noise. In the quiet, I remembered the uncounted times I'd covered it, and no one spoke of it again. The winter Aaron married, when I paid the full tab for the furnace and maintenance because it's colder this year. The time Tessa swapped the fridge, the shop called me by mistake, and I said, run the card, just to keep the house from arguing. Those times flowed away like water. Now they were congealing into paper. I wrapped my knuckles softly on the binder's edge and felt my body learning another way to live. Instead of sprinting to douse fires, I was putting up a fire break. Night deepened. In the living room, the TV kept murmuring. I closed my door and leaned back against the wood. This time, follow the paper, I said to myself, my voice as even as the clock on the wall. The porch was slick with dew. The mailbox thumped when I shut it after pulling a pizza flyer. My phone buzzed 3 times in a row, the family thread lighting up, Tessa's avatar stacked all over. I skimmed the foggy lines. Dad hasn't paid a cent, still demands to stay. We're carrying everything. A photo of the kitchen corner with a light glare dragged into the frame, as if even the bulbs had joined their side. The smell of damp wood mixed with the city of Spokane green bins trash. Late morning scent. Aaron opened the door and stepped onto the porch, blocking me the way he had yesterday. His eyes were red from no sleep, hair wild, t-shirt creased. Turn auto pay back on. Quit the act. No, paper will answer. Tessa stood in the doorway with her arms crossed. You want us embarrassed in front of the neighbors? I want things clear. As I said it, a neighbor led his Labrador past. The leash brushed the step with a quick rasp. The man flicked a glance, dipped a neutral nod, turned away, like he'd seen this scene too many times. I pocketed my phone and went back inside. There was a small coal burning behind my shoulder blade, but I kept my steps even so it wouldn't flare. On my table, the binder lay open. Index bolded, taxes, maintenance, large items. 3 blue plastic tabs lined up straight like the edge of a steel ruler. I slid in the 30-day notice I'd printed last night, smoothed the edge, and sealed it into a clear sleeve. The header in caps, notice of conditions and timeline. I added one short line at the top. Certified, return receipt requested. I drew a long breath. My fingertips cooled. Enough. At the South Hill USPS, glass partitions were fogged and the vinyl floor shone. In line ahead, an older woman in white shoes held a red-wrapped box. Behind me, a man in a mariner's cap hugged a stack of flat-rate boxes. The wall poster promised, flat rate, if it fits, it ships. A tray of pens on spiraled chains sat beside the green PS form 38111, the signature card for delivery. I printed the addressee in block letters, shaping each character so no one could claim I'd written it sloppy. The clerk, brown hair, high in a tie, looked up. Certified? Need the green card signed on delivery. Yes, I need a signature. I slid the card to her and asked for a date stamp. I called Paula. She picked up on 2 rings, her voice steady as the fluorescent light above. Keep the receipt. Photograph the envelope. Proof of mailing starts the clock. Understood, she added. Write the tracking number into your binder. I will. I pressed the stamps down, thumb smoothing the edges tight. When I dropped the envelope into the blue box outside, the metal door gave a clean, cold clang. In my head, a clock began, not with hands but with days counted on paper. Out in the lot, wind shivered the maple leaves and brought a dry pine smell. I snapped a photo of the envelope at the box. Stamps, address, certified tracking number. I filed each image into paper, 2024, name by date and time. The chain of custody started here. No more room for, I remember. I stopped by Ray's on Grand. The shop was quiet. The chalkboard read, Refill 99C, veterans get free refills on Fridays. Ray set the creamer by my cup, slid over a packet of brown sugar, and gave a small nod. No questions? I opened the binder to the first page and wrote in heavy strokes. No yelling, only dates and signatures. The black ink bloomed and then dried fast. I looked at the high school team photos. Aaron at 15, number 12, laughing in the scrub field sun, cleats muddy. I still remember his voice. Dad, don't forget to come. I was there, water bottle in hand, voice hoarse from shouting. Memory played like a reel. The year he was jobless, and I paid the HOA for the whole year to avoid a late mark. The winter the roof leaked, I fronted the roofer and stood under a wet porch while he diagrammed pitch and shingles. The first baby's birthday, I bought the new fridge, rolled the old one to the garage, and plumbed the ice line myself. Those things went by silently, counted as the natural order, with no ink stamp. Today I rewrote them as binder items, each with dates and signatures. A push notification blinked. Next door, new post in South Hill. Tessa's post was spreading, her version single-sided. I tapped the comment box and typed, slow and short, all housing taxes and major maintenance have been paid by me. Documents ready for review. Send. No names, no blame. Just facts. Tessa shot back. Don't dirty the group with your family mess. It a green dot lit next to Lydia Park. I could almost hear her pen tap as she wrote, if there are originals, bring them to open session. I replied, happy to. I'll bring the binder. Below, a few neighbors DM'd, can we see the papers? When's the meeting? I tagged them later and screenshotted for the record. In the corner, a veteran in a U.S. Marines cap nodded and sipped, like he'd heard a story with a known ending. Rules win. Back home, dry maple leaves tufted on the steps. I shook them off my shoe and went in. The living room TV murmured. Aaron hunched over his phone, jaw set, cords tight in his neck. As I passed, he stood fast and followed me into the kitchen, setting his phone on the table with a hard tick. You blasted me online? I didn't name anyone. I cited documents. You're blowing up the family. Family is in autopay. Read the notice when it arrives. He grunted, grabbed the phone again, eyes sliding over me like over furniture. I didn't chase him. I opened a drawer, pulled out a photocopy of the notice, labeled it proof of mailing, and slipped it into a clear sleeve. On the label, I added the tracking number in fine print, small and upright. I sat and opened a blank sheet to list. Certified mail sent. Tracking, Nawain. Photos saved. Timestamps. Return receipt expected. Recipient signature. I called Paula back, my voice low. Sent. Original receipt in the binder. Scan an email. Good, she said. Keep the chain clean. Each word like the even teeth of a fine saw, cutting a crooked block into a straight line. Afternoon thinned. The sunlight was as pale as fresh paper. I double-checked. USPS receipt, photos of the stamped envelope with address, certified, tracking, a photo of the white and green card before mailing. Notes from my call with Paula. With the wall clock ticking, my chest settled like a pond after a thrown stone. Rings, then smooth. I laid my palm on the clear cover. The cool plastic drew the heat down. One more buzz. The HOA thread posted, community open session, limited seating, Tosh 12 for next week. Fine print. Bring relevant documents. I closed the binder. The rings met with a snug click. My reflection wavered on the glossy cover. See you there, I said to myself, quiet enough not to bait anyone, clear enough for me to hear. Night fell. I mixed warm water and stood by the window. Next door, a family was eating. Forks kissed plates and small chimes. I wasn't jealous. I just felt I'd finally taken my proper place in the story. The part with dates, signatures, stamps. I set the cup down, opened the binder again, and clipped in one more note. Bring originals, plus 12 copies. I switched off the desk lamp. The room shrank to the soft hum of the air handler. The wall clock blurred, but the 30-day mark glowed somewhere in my mind like a line of survey stakes along a road. The kitchen was gray bright. On the fridge, a chore card was taped up with 3M blue painter's tape. Pick up the grandkid, buy toilet paper, take out trash. I rinsed the oil off my hands and walked past. Tessa pointed at the card, voice flat like reading a procedure. You'll pick up the kid, buy toilet paper, and take out the trash. No, I'm not your household errand boy. I kept my eyes on the sink. Aaron planted both hands on the counter. You're making this difficult. I'm done serving. Read the notice. Getting worked up over nothing, Tessa scoffed, yanking a cabinet. The hinge squealed dry. It's not nothing, I said. It's a habit. Aaron yanked the fridge shut, thunk like an exclamation mark. I grabbed my jacket from the chair and headed straight for the porch without arguing. Outside, the wind slid maple leaves across the faded welcome mat. The neighbor led his Labrador past and gave a nod, eyes flicking toward the fridge, like he could see the chore list through the doorway. I looked toward the distant garbage truck. The city of Spokane green bin tilted at the curb. For years, I'd been the help, swapping filters, shoveling before dawn, patching the roof in storm season, paying the trade so the house wouldn't fight at night. All of it swallowed by silence, like dried glue under the table's edge. Today, the silence ended. I took the binder to raise on grand. Soft country played, the steel guitar a tight, steady wire. The chalkboard read, Refill 99C, veterans get free refill on Fridays. Ray set the creamer by my cup. Print extra backups? 12 sets. First page is a 90-second read, dates and signatures only. I laid out the 3 anchor proofs on the table. Property taxes, roof maintenance invoice, the major appliance bill. I set a straight edge along the pages and smoothed them true. In my notebook, I made short bullets. $2,800, respect. 30-day notice sent, deed on file. Underneath, 3 smaller bullets. Tax year, amount, check structure, vendor, date, signature, warranty, serial, installer. I read it under my breath and cut every adjective I didn't need. Ray handed me a fresh ream and said quietly, "The back printer's slow, but it's steady." I nodded and gave her a small enough smile. On the clear cover, I wrote the reminder. No yelling, only dates and signatures. Looking at it felt like a frame where my emotions could sit still. I clipped the stack, checked the ink's expiry on my black pen, swapped for one that wrote cleaner. Little things I'd never done for myself, only for others. Office Depot smelled like ink and new plastic. The line was short. Everyone cradled a small piece of their life. A student swapped printer cartridges. A middle-aged woman asked about cardstock. A guy weighed plastic covers. The copier hesitated, then rolled, like far-off rain. The clerk with the name badge asked, "Covers or staple only?" "Thin covers, 12 packets. Mark the corner for review." "Laminate the front page?" "No need. Keep it light." I waited while a pallet of A4 rolled past, the wheels whispering on vinyl. When the packets came out, I checked each set, flipped the bottom right corner. The stapler clicked a steady rhythm. "Laminate, 12 sets," showed on the receipt. I had them remove it. The clerk nodded and reprinted. I slid everything into a red Office Depot paper bag. The paper handles rasped my wrist. Real enough. At the self-label station, I wrote "For Review" in black and taped it across each top corner with a slash of blue painter's tape. I kept the roll to label spares. The community center lot felt like it swallowed words. I cut the engine and heard the tiny tick of the dash clock. Wind combed the maples. Leaves brushed the hood with a soft swish. I tugged the parking brake, maybe just to give my hands a job. On the passenger seat, 12 packets, each stamped "For Review," with a 1-page summary on top. 3 lines, no more. I took out the wallet photo of Margaret, kind smile in the sun, edges worn. Don't teach with anger. Teach with what you do. I squeezed the wheel and let out a slow breath. The fire in my chest backed off, leaving just enough cool for reason to stand up. I stepped into the lobby, gray carpet, a faint cleaner smell. The board read, "Open session, limited seating, 12, next to flyers for Little League signups and neighborhood watch meeting." A tray held donut holes and a pitcher of lemonade. A kid reached and his mother's hand caught his wrist gently. I called Janelle right there, voice low and clear. "Confirming agenda, item ownership clarification, documentation review." "Added," Janelle said. "Compliance officer will attend. Reminder for all, no lock changes without owner of record consent." "Thank you. I'm bringing the binder and originals." A familiar tap-tap sounded behind me. Lydia Park passed, knocking her pen twice on her folder, and gave me a short nod, eyes landing exactly on the "For Review" label. I got the signal. "Bring originals, talk less." She added one just audible line. "Bring 12. I lifted the red bag. She nodded again. The pen tapped once more. As I stepped out, my phone buzzed. HOA agenda confirmed. The last line in bold. Reminder, no lock changes without owner of record approval. The ding was dry and clean. I leaned back on the lobby chair and dropped my shoulders. I pictured Aaron reading the same email, his finger stopping on owner of record, his brow pinching. I didn't need to imagine long. The rules were speaking for me, not me for them. On the way home, I swung by Staples just to grab extra tabs in case a set ran short. The cashier's training smile asked, "Receipt?" I nodded. The thin strip curled like a ribbon. I slid it into the binder pocket. Everything had a place, big as the deed, small as a till slip. Back home, I set the red bag on the table. The kitchen was still gray-bright. The fridge chore card hadn't moved. Tessa gave it a glance and pretended not to. Aaron scrolled, the screen's light flattening his face. No one spoke. Neither did I. I passed through, trimmed a misstapled packet with scissors, pressed the edge flat, satisfied with the true cut. That night I laid all 12 packets across the living room table. Warm light fell evenly. The paper shone with a whisper of sheen. I labeled each set, checked the page counts, and placed the one-page summary on top. The opening sentence was exactly 18 words. I made the 19th disappear. My hands warmed. The local news talked wildfires out west. The reporter's voice faded as I focused on the straight lines of paper stacks. I stuck on one more post-it. Bring originals, plus the 12 copies. The phone buzzed, a text from Aaron's number. Bring that stuff and we're done as father and son. I looked at it a moment. I didn't write a speech back. I slid the original deed into the binder's first clear pocket, checked the seal, and closed the cover. See you at 7, I said, barely above a whisper. Enough for me to hear, enough to steady my hands. I muted the family thread and let the quiet come home. I carried the red Office Depot bag to my room and set it by the chair. Night wind pushed leaves across the porch, a papery rustle. I stood to turn off the light. The clear cover threw back one last dull glint and went dark, leaving 12 slim stacks on the table. 12 pavers laid down for tomorrow's meeting. I touched the binder lightly and murmured, no yelling, only dates and signatures. And for the first time in years, that was enough to sleep. The community center lobby smelled of clean carpet and lemonade. Folding tables wore plastic cloths. A ring of donut holes sat on a tray. On the whiteboard, in marker, open session, limited seating, dear 12. I set 12 for review packets in the tray, each topped with a one-page summary. Outside the glass doors, the U.S. flag rustled on its pole. Pickup silhouettes slid across the lot. The sign-in sheet lay beside a cup of pens on spiral chains. People signed one by one, handwriting as distinct as wood grain. Tessa leaned close, voice low. Planning to put on a show. Just presenting documents. Aaron glanced around, flicking a finger against his chair edge. Don't humiliate me in front of the neighbors. Everyone's here when the facts are clear. A middle-aged woman plucked a donut hole, looked at us, then away. The room buzzed in a nylon whisper. Janelle tapped a tiny wooden gavel. Please take your seats. Reminder, keep order, be brief, don't interrupt. Fluorescence fell evenly. I stood and opened the binder. The clear plastic flashed under the lights like a strip of water. I'll be brief, I said, steady and direct. The deed is in my name. Property taxes and major maintenance have been paid by me, receipts included. A 30-day notice has been sent by certified mail. I handed out packets, the stapler's tick-keeping time. One landed before the man in the U.S. Marine's cap. He nodded like he trusted paper over talk. I let the line sit in the room. I'm not here to win applause, only to show receipts. The air dropped a notch. The compliance officer nodded. Proceed. I turned a page. Page 2, last year's property tax. Page 5, roof replacement. Page 8, the refrigerator. Aaron popped up, chair scraping. You live in our house and contribute nothing. Page 2, I said, pointing. Taxes paid. Check number included. Tessa lifted her phone, eyes skimming. You can write anything. Who's checking? The compliance officer looked at both sides. Who is the owner of record? I slid the original deed from its sleeve and set it on the folding table. My name. Janelle gestured. The compliance officer bent to read, lifted a corner, and rested on the notary seal. Minutes reflect, owner of record, Thomas Hale. Reiterating rule, no lock changes without written consent from the owner. A young neighbor asked quietly, without waiting for a mic, has anyone matched the parcel number? I slid my finger to the bold line. Here, same number as on the tax notice. See the last section of your packet. He nodded and sat. Pages rustled, then stilled. The HVAC breathed a steady backbeat while paper did the talking. I raised my voice just enough. 30-day notice. Certified. Return receipt requested. Proof of mailing is at the end. I slid a photo of the green card to the table corner for anyone to see. No lecture, just placed it down. A man in a flannel jacket put on his glasses, leaned in on the tracking number, and snapped a photo. To remember how to do it. Tessa drew breath to add more. Janelle lifted a hand. Hold questions for the end. Presenter, continue. I paused a beat so the room could swallow the words. I didn't look at faces. I looked at dates and signatures. Outside, the flag snapped. On the wall, the clock ticked once, crisp. Lydia Park pushed her glasses up and read. Her pen tapped, tap, tap at the roofer's signature, then tap, tap again at the proof of mailing. She rotated the pen and made a tiny pencil dot on the tax page, a memory mark. She moved to the parcel number, eyelids lowering for half a second like underlining in her head. The room held still. Even the fan sounded softer. I kept a palm on the binder so it wouldn't slide. Aaron coughed, trying to take lead. He's just telling a story, says he paid for everything. I didn't look at him. Page 3, prior year summary. Page 6, card statement, installer signature in the corner. Tessa flicked a nail on the table. You're performing. The compliance officer cut in, voice straight as a ruler. These documents show signatures and check numbers. If you have a rebuttal, submit counter documents after the session. No verbal disputes. An older woman added gently, paper is clearer. Don't fight here. No one answered, but shoulders in the room eased a notch. Lydia looked up. Her voice wasn't loud, but it was clean. Taxes and maintenance were paid by Mr. Hale. The deed is his. The notice is valid. I don't see freeloading here. A murmur rose and died on its own. Tessa blinked, color draining. Aaron said, thin with breath, this is all to smear me. I haven't named anyone, I said. I've presented documents. I set the sentence back in its slot. The compliance officer closed it out. Minutes will reflect. Owner of record, Thomas Hale. Rule on no lock changes restated. Parties are advised to respect the 30-day notice. Recorder, note it. Keys clicked. A cursor blinked on a small laptop screen. He turned to me. Will you leave the originals for scan? I shook my head. I brought digital scans. I'll keep the originals. He nodded. Acceptable. In open questions, only 2 hands went up. One asked the mailing date. I read the tracking number and the postmark off the receipt. The other asked, what if the notice isn't honored? Compliance answered, after the deadline, the affected party may proceed through the appropriate channel. We won't discuss remedies here. Someone in the back row gave a short, a period, nothing more. Session over. I gathered the extra packets and squared the edges. Janelle came over with agenda confirmed, minutes for review. Sign here. My pen slid like a door freshly oiled. Thank you for staying within time, she said. I nodded, nothing added. The lobby returned to low talk. A neighbor came close and whispered, I used to think differently. Your paperwork, it's clear. I answered only, thank you for reading, and stepped aside. Tessa passed, squeezing her phone white-knuckled, eyes avoiding mine. Aaron yanked the door. The gust made the Little League flyers tremble. In the lot, the air was colder. I opened the car. The chimes sounded as the key turned. Aaron blocked the side of the car, hands down, shoulders sagging like after a long round. Give me till Monday. Don't push the notice. I met his eyes without anger. Tomorrow you'll get my letter of conditions, I said flat. You're stone always, he said. Maybe to me, maybe to his reflection in the glass. I didn't answer. The headlights came up, washing his face pale. I got in and shut the door. The close of it sounded solid like a signature. I didn't pull out right away. I set the binder on the passenger seat and touched the words on its cover. No yelling, only dates and signatures. And that line carried me through a room with 12 chairs. I opened my phone and drafted the first lines of the letter of conditions. Title, minimum terms, a timeline aligned to the notice. I saved the draft and darkened the screen. Now it would carry me through the rest. I pressed the gas. The flag on the pole tilted. Its shadow ran across the windshield and disappeared. The kitchen and living room were wrapped in the odd quiet that follows a public night. The TV was on the weather channel no one was watching. I stood by the wood table, a white envelope under my hand in the center, not sitting. This is the letter of conditions? I spoke slowly, letting each word touch the wood. 2 weeks to find work, 6 months without asking me for money. Speak respectfully when you call. Break it, and I move on. Aaron leaned against the fridge and looked away. You punishing me? I'm holding a boundary. Tessa crossed her arms. Give us more time. No extensions. I tapped the envelope with a fingertip. The paper already says so? I slid out a $1,000 cashier's check clipped inside the letter and pushed it to the table's edge. A final allotment. It only funds if the conditions are kept. Aaron eyed the check and pressed his lips thin. Your whole life you've rescued like this. Today I'm rescuing the rest of my own life. Tessa touched the envelope and flinched like it was hot. If we try, will you reconsider? I'll look at the paperwork. I repeated it and closed the conversation. I turned and left the kitchen. Behind me, the fridge door thudded thunk, but it didn't carry the old power anymore. Raison Grand, window corner. The flag on the street light outside moved in a small wind. I opened my notebook and wrote a line, then underlined it. Forgiveness isn't a blank check. Ray set down another cup. No questions. I nodded my thanks. The high school team photos were still on the wall. Aaron in the back row, big grin, ball glove up. I remembered a rainy day he slipped and fell, and I handed him a towel and said, "Get up, son." Today I folded the copy of the letter and breathed slow, letting the memory pass by without docking. I looked once more at forgiveness, then shut the notebook and capped the pen. At the counter, the community college job fair Thursday flyer now had a fresh strip of blue tape. That flyer wasn't for me, but it was for anyone ready to be responsible for themselves. 2 weeks slid by like water through a gutter. No jerks, no breaks. My phone buzzed. Aaron, short. Still looking, nothing yet. Send proof of applications. You don't trust me? I trust documents. Tessa broke into the next call, voice held down like holding back tears. Can we have a few more weeks? No, conditions unmet. I laid those last 2 words down as lightly as setting a cup on a coaster, then added, the door is open to respect, not delay. Silence thickened the air. Somewhere in the kitchen, a spoon tapped a cup, a tiny ring. I opened contacts and tapped Paula Green. Proceed to closing, I said when she picked up. Can you sign at the office this afternoon? Paula asked, voice even as fluorescent light. Yes. I emailed the letter of conditions I had already delivered, with notes on the timeline. Paula replied within minutes. Acknowledged. Escrow office, Spokane title. The laminate table was cool. The toner smell was fresh. Closing room was etched on the glass. I set the binder down. Paula slid a thick stack toward me, a clip on the corner. Sign here and here. She placed yellow flags, voice even. Funds to be wired, standard timeline. The HOA will be notified of the updated owner. I've sent it, Paula said, fingers ticking on the keyboard. Lydia has confirmed receipt. On her screen, the words appeared. Funds to be wired. The cursor spun once and stopped. Paula printed the closing disclosure. The printer coughed, hummed, then smoothed out. I read the key lines, not forcing, not rushing. Last season, I signed so everyone else could be at peace. Today, I signed so I could be at peace. My phone buzzed, an HOA email, owner of record updated. Key handoff schedule. Subline, no lock changes permitted prior to handoff. I skimmed, nodded. I closed the binder. My hand was steady. Any questions? Paula offered the pen. No, thanks for keeping the process clean. That's what we do. Her smile was spare but kind. I left the room, passing the bulletin board with neighborhood watch meeting and Little League signups. Outside, Spokane's sky was dry blue. Wind skittered maple leaves along the curb. Handoff day. I stood on the porch with the key ring in my palm. The buyers parked at the curb, a young couple pulling flat-folded U-Haul boxes from the trunk. Lydia stood near the mailbox post, clipboard in hand, keeping time like a metronome. Aaron came out, face hollowed. You really sold. I said I'd move on if the conditions weren't kept. Tessa narrowed her eyes, hands clasped tight. What about that $1,000? No disbursement, conditions unmet. Lydia gave one sharp nod. Transfer complete. Hand off today. She marked the form, her pen landing with a final tap. I held the keys out to the buyer. He opened his hand to take them and nodded, saying something very small. We'll take good care of it. I believed it because it wasn't long. Tessa turned away, tears falling. No more words. Aaron tried to speak, but his mouth didn't form sound. I didn't try to soothe, and I didn't salt the wound. I said only, thank you for the years we had. Then stopped. The door closed behind them, the click clear as a period. In the yard, maple leaves swept the step, a thin trail of dust drawn into a line. I nudged the old doormat aside and looked at the faded, welcome one last time, then turned away. Sun on the sidewalk shifted to honey. I passed the green city of Spokane bin and squared it up out of habit. Then I left that habit there with the door that had just closed. New apartment, edge of South Hill. The window faced a row of birches. The new doormat printed hello still lay flat. Clean carpet, stainless sink, bright as a bell. I set Windex and Bounty under the sink like two small anchors. On the balcony, the metal rail was cool to the touch. Emily knocked twice, then peeked in without waiting, hugging a snake plant. Grandpa? Here. She set the plant on the sill and looked around. I brought some food and this plant is hard to kill. She smiled, the same light as her mother's, like sun through thin curtains. Thank you. Emily stood a moment, then said softly, I'm angry at them, but I don't want you living with anger. I'm not bringing anger, I said. I'm bringing boundaries. My hand touched Margaret's photo on the shelf. Your mom would like that plant. Are you eating properly? Yes. I pointed to a Safeway bag with a few staples. I'm learning to live alone again. Emily drew a breath, eyes wet but clear. I'm proud of you. I'm proud of you too. I patted her shoulder. Study, live decent. She nodded and checked the time. I've got class. She hugged me. Our buttons clicked softly. If you need anything, call. I'll call when I need, I smiled. And when I don't, I'll still tell you I'm okay. The door shut. The apartment held its quiet. I opened the blinds and let the afternoon spread in, washing Margaret's picture. I pulled a sheet from my pocket. Boundaries, not bitterness. I set it beside the photo, a simple pledge. My phone buzzed. An email from Aaron, a single flat line. Starting Monday, I'll clock in. I read it and didn't reply. I trimmed the blinds so the light wasn't too harsh, slid the binder into a cabinet, and closed it. Tonight I'd make a simple meal, wash the dishes clean, and sleep in quiet. There was no loud victory here, just a new place, a hello mat, and boundaries that hold. If you enjoyed the story, please like this video. Subscribe to the channel and share your thoughts about it in the comments. To hear the next story, click the box on the left.